What
Hey,
up?
what's going on, buddy?
Oh, pretty good, man. Pretty good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah. So what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Those Two Dads. We talk all things entrepreneur, dadpreneur. Excuse me,
Hey,
dadpreneur. I'm Kyle. I almost forgot my name, and this is Josh.
hey,
Today we're going to talk about are you good with your money? Topic that I think a lot of us, especially in the digital marketing world, are kind of focused on. So, is dealing with your finances a major stressor in your life? Which some are, some aren't. Some good with their money, some aren't. And are you have a hard time keeping up with the budget? So today we'll talk about our experience with that and what you can do to start making progress in the right direction. So before we get going, though, we'd be grateful if you could hit the hearts, drop hashtag live if you're live with us on Facebook or the YouTube stream, or a hashtag replay if you guys catch it later. Be sure to tag or share these episodes with your favorite dad or mompreneur. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be alerted when we go live. So we love helping and sharing with others. Also, don't forget to catch us on any of those podcast networks. We're all over those too. So let's jump into it, man. What's up?
Not much, man. Yeah, it's been a few weeks. Quick life update. Family and I took a vacation. We, which you know this already.
You got time for that? Who got time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that. No, yeah, it was. We took a really nice vacation. We went to, so we drove pretty much across the country. Went from North Dakota, where we're at, out to California, and then we saw some family in Idaho, and then we went to Yellowstone, and then came back, and then had a business conference, and just dropped the kids off with grandma and grandpa, and drove the opposite direction to Kentucky. And
yeah, you flew past my neck of the woods, and we were going to meet up, and it never happened.
We were, and then some things happened over the weekend that needed to be addressed, and we didn't have the ability as we wanted to. So
yeah.
was a little disappointed, but hey, you know.
Well, the weather coming through the Midwest last Sunday was intense.
Yeah, it was.
I don't want to drive through all that stuff either.
Yeah, it was pretty wicked. We drove actually on the outside of it, and we saw it, and we're just like, oh, that doesn't look good. But yeah, it was crazy. But a couple interesting stats from our trip. So we put on over 7,000 miles, and we drove.
That's a new car,
right? Newer, yeah.
New to you.
So, yeah, new to us. But yeah, it was nice. It was comfortable. It was great. We had a good time. But yeah, so over 7,000 miles of driving. We went through 11 states, all 4 time zones of the contiguous U.S. And then we went through 6 different national parks.
Dude, so you guys were hustling.
Yeah, it was. Well, and here's what's crazy is it didn't feel like we really did all that much. That was like we weren't pushing ourselves to go fast, right?
Yeah. Well, how many days was it? Was that 14, 15 days?
Yeah, like 15 days.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't too terrible. I mean, we spent 6 or 7 days in California, just hanging out with mom and, whatever, and family. But it was, of the actual driving time, it was definitely, I think it was a total of about 7 days of driving time. Because we only drove during the day. So we would get up in the morning and we'd start our drive, and we would drive to where we needed to go. And we broke it up into about 8 or 9 hour chunks of driving, and it worked out great. And we got to see the things we wanted to see, and we got to go into different, like in North Dakota on the west side, there's the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and Medora is kind of inside there. And so, they got some like old school shops and things like that, and caught a car show like randomly. Didn't even realize that there was a car show there, and we pull up our first day of the trip, and we're like, sweet surprise, like super awesome car show, in this little small town. But yeah, it was good. It was a good time. So very thankful that we had the ability to do that, and that we had the opportunity to be able to, really make it.
Yeah, that'll be a trip that you guys won't forget, man.
Boys. That was part of the reason we did it.
That's so much great time, so much cool stuff that you got to do. It's awesome. Josh Thurman, what up, man?
Hey, buddy. Happy Sunday to you too, my friend.
We've been playing phone tag a little bit, me and Mr. Josh. We need to catch up with him because he's got a lot of cool stuff going.
Yeah,
we got to get in his own life. And so we did one of our early episodes featured Mr. Thurman. We've had
Yes.
a lot of Joshes on in our 21
And Josh
shows.
Thurman, Josh Wild.
Yeah, Josh, got to get him back on.
Yeah, we should totally. And I think it'll be really cool because I like those like update ones, right? Where you get someone like 6 months or a year later and you're just like, hey,
and he's got a cool update. So like a little tease, like he's got some cool
awesome.
stuff.
Well, to get you on, Josh, it'll be fun. We'll have some good times again. But anyways, so that was my quick life update. And I don't know, do you got anything before we get into it?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, life is life.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, we've got a couple personal things going on. We've had some family members in the hospital, stuff like that. But so nothing that's crazy exciting from from a vacation standpoint. But we're just driving through, man. Driving through.
Just riding that wave we call life, right?
That's what's up. We were planning the boys' birthday party yesterday. They got 2 birthdays coming up. One obviously for each of our boys. So get that big old water slide. You remember that last year?
Yep.
We're doing it again.
That's like what our neighbors did this year. Yesterday is they put one of those big old water slides up, and the kids were just having a heyday. It barely fit on the side of their house here.
Yeah.
But it was so cool. It was right
like 2.5 stories tall, man.
Right? It's freaking awesome.
It's awesome.
I didn't want to go down it because I didn't want to get wet. Like it was so hot and everything. And I was like, it probably would have felt good, but I didn't want to deal with getting wet and having to worry about that. And I was helping with some of the stuff with the party and whatever. So I was like, I'm going to stay off, but it looked like a couple of the other dads did it. And I'm like, now I'm thinking back on,
that was a mistake.
Yep.
That was a mistake on your part. You should have got on that immediately.
Yeah, I should have.
And then you could have helped.
That's true. I could have.
Yeah. There was time for both. I promise.
So
let's dive in, man. Let's dive in.
Sure. Honestly,
so we're talking finances, and I know this is something like in my own personal life we've been kind of keying in on, like reorganizing our budgets.
Yeah.
Making a plan for your money, and like just like anything else that keeps you successful in life, it's a system, right?
Yep.
So your budget and what you do with your money is no different. Like have a plan for your money, So I know you wanted to dive into some things. So,
well, the first thing I will say is when it comes to finances, budgeting, things like that, and this is, it's one of those things like I put in the description of the video for those that can see it, like on Facebook and YouTube. It's a taboo conversation. People don't want to talk about it with other people. They want to keep their finances all tight knit in a ball or inside, and they don't want to, let anybody know what's going on in their lives. And part of that is because we've been taught over many, many years that talking about your finances to anybody else is wrong, right? We've been told that nobody should be involved in anything like that. And I agreed to that to a point, but I think that a lot of people do it and it's hurtful to them because they don't open up to people that maybe could help them. One of the things that we do with people that we personally, partner up with in business and things like that is we have a budget session. We sit down and go, hey, you're going to, obviously in the digital marketing world, you're going to have situations where you're going to need to keep a budget and you're going to have to spend some money. And so the big thing that I will always go back to is something that Dave Ramsey says. And Dave Ramsey says that if every dollar is not accounted for, every unaccounted dollar will disappear on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that not because he wants to tell people like, oh, you're just throwing away your money, but it's more of like, if you don't tell your money where to go, then you're absolutely not going to, understand where it's going. You're going to wake up one morning and go, wow, my checking account has $10 left in it. What happened to the rest of it? And you go through your checklist, your transaction list, and you're like, oh, okay, well, there's where that, and that's where that one went, and that's where that one went. And next thing you know, you're running into a situation where you have to backtrack and figure out, okay, what could I have done differently? And then people do that habitually every single month as they go, well, I had $400, but now I only have 50 because I went and did this, and I went and bought this, and I did this thing, and I bought this thing on Amazon because I wanted that for a while, and it doesn't go anywhere productive. And then when somebody comes up and says, hey, we need $100 to, get this program, or we need $100 to do this thing, you're like, oh, well, I don't have the money to do that. And then you're causing.
Well, most people have a really hard time differentiating between wants and needs, right?
Big time. Absolutely. And
I know I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very tough. It's taken a lot of years for me, specifically going through different courses like David Ramsey's course. And funny enough, Tony Robbins does actually have a financial course as well.
Yeah.
And so does John Maxwell, where they talk about, but theirs is more about mindset around money and less about the actual physical workings of money. And
but that's important too. Like, you have to have a good relationship with money. Money's not evil in of itself.
Right. Money is not
you can make money. You need money to survive, right? We're all like, anybody that's probably in this universe, like, it probably has a really good relationship with money. Like, we're trying to make more money to better our lives, to better our families, so that we can better our communities.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of in that order. You got to better yourself first. It's like, why do they on an airplane, they tell you to put the oxygen mask on you first?
Yep.
Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't help anybody else.
Right. You can't really help somebody else put on a mask if you're dead.
Right. Right. So, better yourself, which betters your family, betters your community. And that's no different when you're talking about money and when you're talking about your own personal budget.
Right. And that's something that I struggled with for a long time, which was understanding where my money needed to go and what was important about it and how I could make it better. Right. And that's always what people want, is they want to make it better. They want to have a situation where they can say, hey, guess what? I've stuck to my budget for X amount of months. And a couple examples of things that we've done is, like, for example, our budget with our, products that we buy. There's a group of products that we buy from a pretty well-known, health and wellness company. We get our vitamins and our supplements and, our energy drinks. So, like, the energy drink I'm drinking here, that kind of stuff. And it's on a budget every month. And we know exactly how much we have to spend. We know exactly how much, we have available to us. And we meet that every single month. And if we are not able to make that amount, then we actually have a conversation of, like, what did we do, right? Which, quick shout out, Julie Kelly's here this morning. Good morning, Julie. Nice to see you popping in here as well. So appreciate that.
Josh, I got to say, dude, you have raving fans. Raving.
Everybody loves you. Credit. They're awesome.
Well, it's because you give.
That's true.
You give.
Yeah. Well, okay. So to that point, I don't do these things for me. Yes, I do love helping people, and this is helping people, but I don't do any of this stuff for me. I don't expose myself for my.
I hope you don't expose yourself.
Yeah. No, I don't expose myself in that way, but I don't expose my emotions and my, my shortcomings, and I'm not vulnerable because I'm like, oh, this is fun for me. Like, it is, I enjoy serving people, but that part of it is not always the greatest, right? Talking about finances, it is a taboo subject. People don't like talking about it, but I do it because I know there's somebody out there, at least one person, right? I always think that in my mind. There's at least one person in every single thing that I do. At least one person was impacted. And I know that it's more than that, but at least one person has been impacted by the things that I do.
That's where you got to start, right?
Right. And I just keep growing on that. And that's one of the reasons why, one of the things that I'm doing is, I'm co-authoring a book, which haven't talked a whole lot about that, and that's okay. But it's exciting. But it's
I'm stoked for you for that.
Oh, thank you, dude. No, it's awesome. But anyways, but that's one of the reasons why I do this, right?
Well, you were just talking about vulnerability for a second, and that just kind of reminded me, because you were talking about vulnerability for a second, and sometimes that's taboo, and then sometimes talking about your money can be taboo, which I think both are ridiculous. Like, I think that if you want to be able to level up you and your own self, like being vulnerable, and that doesn't mean being a whiner, like, from vulnerability. And when you're talking about your money, like, you don't have to give away your entire, like, financial map, but you need to be able to talk about things intelligently with a little bit of IQ and EQ, little emotional intelligence,
Yep.
right? To be able to better yourself in your own situation and how other people budget and what they're doing with their money. Like, those are good things. Iron sharpens iron.
Yes,
So
sir.
have those conversations.
It's funny enough. That is one of the things we talked about when we first started this podcast. Is for you and I, this wasn't just even a way to help others; it was also a way to help each other. Because as we're doing these episodes, we are iron sharpening iron with each other. Because we're on here talking about our own personal experiences, and we're learning and growing together, and then we're helping others do the same thing. So it's impactful, and that goes back to the point I was making of like, I didn't start setting a budget because I thought it was a good idea. Somebody else told me you should set a budget. And it was actually one of my mentors, and we got into business, and, he said, you should set a budget and you should set it for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we had budgets before, but it wasn't anything that was like set in stone, right? We just kind of mentally thought we mentally knew how much we were spending on things. And it wasn't until we
been down that road.
Yep. Yeah. You think and
that's that. I think I have 400 in my checking account, and then you look and it's 50. You're like, what did I do? And you nickeled and dimed yourself to $50.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we were doing, is we were nickeling and diming ourselves to 50. Actually it was less than that. We were going down to, and I'll be vulnerable with this one. We would go down to sometimes even less than $1. Like, you're talking nickel and diming it. We were like nickel and diming left. Like, there wasn't much left. And It was the hardest part about it was when we sat down with our mentors at the first place, when we first got someone to really tell us, someone from the outside, because obviously our family is just kind of like, oh, just don't go out to eat as much, and just don't do this as much, and don't do that as much. But you can tell yourself that, but then when you're out and about and you're running errands and you're like, well, I'm hungry.
Yeah, you make the exception every time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And like Julie says, you never really know until you look at the hard numbers and statements. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, you don't realize what it is that you're missing out on and what it is that you're spending. And that's what we did, right? Is we sat down and we pulled 3 months worth of bank statements, and we found out that we were spending almost $1,000 a month on eating out. And yeah, right. Kyle's over there pointing at himself for those of you that are looking on the podcast.
We've been there, done that. Interesting. Like, here's a quick story on that.
Yeah, before.
Like, we still kind of fall into that on the eating out. That's our bugaboo, right? So when we had COVID in January, okay, and we're stuck at home. I mean, obviously we weren't really eating very much because we weren't hungry, but we weren't eating out either. And in that 15 days that we were home, like, those bank accounts looked good, buddy, because we weren't eating out.
Right.
And like, that was kind of an eye opener too, because like you get that snapshot of time. You're like, holy cow, man, we really do spend a lot on food. And so when you're not focused in on your budget, and you let yourself, like what you were saying, oh, we just need to cut back a little bit, and it's not like very focused, you're not actually following a system, your money disappears.
Yeah.
You make the exception every time.
Well, yeah, because you're not telling your money, like, here's where you're going, And there's a couple things that I'll bring up is, so we all have smartphones, or most of us have smartphones, right? So one of the things that, Dave Ramsey has built, his team has built, is a app called Every Dollar. So it looks like that when you pull it up, and Every Dollar is a budgeting app. And that's what we started with, is we sat down and you say, how much your income is. And they always ask you for a base income, because some of the, like my wife, for example,
you can't count on bonuses, man. Like, bonuses not be part of your budget.
Correct.
You got to be able, like, so like, just kind of to your point, your budget, when you make them, is your regular base income.
Yeah.
Bonuses, commissions, whatever is, like, maybe, you're working towards extra, like, you can't count that in your budget. That's bonus money.
Yep.
Now you still have to have a plan for that, but your day-to-day budget,
you still got to have a plan for that bonus, because
your day-to-day budget is what you're talking about.
Well, and that was, and that's why we did that, right? Is we said, okay, what tools do we have to use? So for those of you that are, and it's not, you don't have to be tech savvy, right? These apps literally walk you through every step. Every dollar walks you through. Put in your income, put in your rent or mortgage, put in your utility bills. Like it literally says, put in everything you spend money on, and then create your budgets. And that goes to the point of like Dave Ramsey. And I'm quoting Dave Ramsey, not because I'm not an affiliate with Dave Ramsey. So disclaimer.
Yeah, whatever.
An affiliate of his. What was that?
I'm just being facetious.
Oh,
I'm messing with you. I said, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Links in the bio. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm putting that out there because go buy it. But no, he's been a big help.
Oh, he's prominent. Everybody knows Dave.
Right. Everybody knows Dave. And the thing is that that helped us greatly because we looked at his plans and kind of what he says to do. And one of the things he says is, focus on your four walls first, right? So you need to focus on, your roof over your head, the clothes on your back, the foods you eat, and your utilities. You got to keep the lights on. You got to keep the water running. You got to keep, the garbage can getting emptied. Like all that stuff has to continue to go. So the thing with that is most people will go like buy their groceries first and then go figure stuff out. And it's like, no, you got to have an order to things. And the way we always teach people is your mortgage or your rent is the first thing you pay because you got to have a roof over your head. And then your utilities is the second thing you pay because you got to have electricity, you got to have water, you got to have your gas. We have a gas furnace, so we got to have gas for heat in the wintertime because I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to heat my house with heating blankets and little electric heaters when it's 30 below outside. I want my central heat. Thank you very much. But like you got to do that. And then you go into your food, right? Because you can survive on, like not eating food for a number of days. I think it was like weeks you can go without food, but you can only go a couple days without water. And that's something that a lot of people forget about is they're like, oh, well, I need to have food in my fridge. No, you really don't. You need to have fluids to be able to keep your body running. And if you're in a tight spot, if you're like
really getting down to the basics here.
Right. But like you got to really make sure that you have the things taken care of in order. And then once that's done, once you've gotten your food taken care of and you spent what you can, if you have no money left, you have no money left. You can't go to McDonald's. You can't go to the steakhouse. You can't go buy all the junk food or go to the movies or whatever that stuff because it's not in the budget. And people forget that. And I even have family members that forget that because they go do these things and then they're like, oh, I don't have money to put a new tire on my car. I don't have money to, pay for my daughter's, education or to go see a family, like people who have family members that are outside of their, local area. And they're like, oh, I can't go see my family because I spent all my money on frivolous crap. And I know we're kind of getting like, it's gonna get passionate because this is a topic I'm really passionate about. But I've been down the financial ruin road. I've been down the road where I've had that minus in front of my balance every single paycheck, going into paycheck with a negative balance. And so I've been there, it's not that I'm just talking about it because I'm like, oh, I took Dave Ramsey's course and now I'm an expert. No, I put it to the test. We went from spending way too much money on stupid crap to, we dropped our eating out budget from what it was as a free budget to, $900 to $1,000 a month down to $300 a month, which a lot of people are like, oh, $300 a month, that's a lot. Not for a family of four. That's like 3 meals.
Yeah, it's like 50 to $60.
Right.
If you're like eating out.
Minimum for 4 of us, because you figure that's $10 a meal plus a drink and then tax and tip. Like that's a cheap. You can barely even get that at McDonald's. Like a value meal at McDonald's now is like $11. It's ridiculous.
What McDonald's are you going to?
Well, it depends on what you get. Like, I'm feeding a 13-year-old boy. He's like, I want a double quarter pounder with cheese and a large fry and a fillet of fish. And I'm like, whoa. But
oh boy.
yeah, but that's the thing, right? Is you can do those things, but you got to do it in moderation. It's the same things for like the fun stuff. Katie and I had our anniversary night last night. We went out to eat. We went to a movie. We enjoyed the evening. We went and got, we have a place in town called Teaberry, which is they do like real fruit smoothies and boba and all that kind of stuff. And Katie likes it. And so, it was right next to where we were eating downtown. And like, we could do that because we put it in the budget, right? We knew that was coming up and we budgeted for it. But it's not just about creating the budget. It's about sticking to it as well. You can't just say, well, I created this budget. Now what? It's like, well, do it, like follow it. We allocate $100 a month to clothes because we know that somebody's going to need a new shirt or a new shorts or, whatever at some point. And if we don't use it, guess what? That money goes into whatever else, but it's allocated, and people say, oh, $100 a month for clothes. I can get a whole wardrobe for that. Great. If you're a thrift store shopper, awesome. Love it. Totally proud of you for that. We do that still for our youngest. We go to secondhand stores for that. And there's no shame in that, right? You can't look down on yourself because, you grew up in a family where you got brand new clothes every school year. Like if you got to make the change and you got to do something that's a little bit less, then do something a little bit less.
Well, you always, no matter who you are, whether you make $100K a year or you make $30K a year, you need to have a budget for your money. Because there's plenty of people that I know that make $100K a year and are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Because they don't have budget discipline.
Yeah.
There's buckets for your money. Pay yourself first. And that's how you need, like, if you know what you're going to make, you have your paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then, if you're married, you got two incomes generally.
Generally, yeah.
I'll tell you, that's a life hack, but that's a story for a different day. But you know how much you're getting. So you put them in the buckets.
Yep.
Like for me, pay yourself first, and then your essentials.
Yep.
Which what you're talking about, the four walls. And when I say pay yourself first, like there's a certain percentage that's going into investments.
Yep.
And if it's $5, it's $5.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good habit.
Yep.
And then you have your grocery budget, and then you have your emergency fund, and you got your extra. Like there's buckets that those things need to go in. And like you're talking about, like maybe you don't spend that $100 that month, put it into the emergency fund. Then that's grown. It's growing. Yep. It's growing more. And you can tap into it for when you need an emergency shirt.
Yeah. Emergency shirt. Yeah. How many times? I mean, I can tell you there's times I've been out and we've been doing something and I go to I'm a bigger guy. So I go down to reach for something on the ground and all of a sudden you hear from the back and it's like, well, that happened. And next thing you know, you're paper clipping it all the way over to, Old Navy to get a new pair of shorts. And it's happened, and we've done it on trips, and we've done it at home, and at home.
I ripped 2 pair of pants at the office within a 2-week period. Just caught it on like a nail or something. Like I don't know why there was
whatever it was.
Nail, there was, and it ripped my favorite pair of pants, and I had to go get some more. But it happened.
It does, and it's funny because I had that. So I work at a sit-down job most of the time. I'm at a desk, and now that I'm at home, it's
so you don't wear pants.
Oh, well, I wear shorts. Yeah. So I guess in a way, no, I don't wear pants. I wear shorts. But no, I've never gotten on that trend. Honestly, I've never gotten on that whole like not wearing pants at all, like just sitting there on boxers and trying to do my job. Like that's just uncomfortable to me. But
you never know when you're going to need to stand up in the camera.
Right. Yeah, that's the last thing you just go to stand up and also be like, oh, hey, didn't need to see that. Thank you very much. But no, I had that happen too at work, and I only had it happen one time, but it only took one time because I didn't have a change of clothes or anything like that, and so I actually took an extra pair of shorts and pants to work and had them in my locker, at our desk. We had a little locker, and I had them in there just in case I had it happen again. And it hasn't yet. But that one time I was like, I had to leave the office and go home because it was not just like a small rip. It went all the way down the inside of my pant leg. And I had just this flap of jeans, sitting underneath there. And I was like, I could go, like, I didn't live that far from home, so I was able to go get some. But for those of you out there that need to have like you're not that close to home, that's a situation where you could have that clothing budget where you're like, oh crap, I need to go buy a pair of pants. And it costs you 30.
Well, budget's always about the what ifs, man. Some sort of random emergency is always going to come up.
Right.
But although what a lot of people tell you, the more prepared you are, the less emergencies you'll have.
Yep. Yeah.
And people might be like, what are you talking about, man? It's the more that you are prepared, the more that you're ready for something, the less is an actual emergency. You're not gonna be stressing about it, really. Like, you put away that $100, right? That's $1,200 a year. I don't spend $1,200 a year on clothes for myself.
Nope.
I don't. Well, my wife might, but we spend for the kids. But that's $1,200 that you got set aside for when you may need it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if something like that comes up, you're not going to be stressing about it because you already got to put it aside.
And that's
if you're disciplined in your budget,
funds are important.
And you're disciplined on the buckets that they go in. You're not going to be stressing, so you'll have less emergencies.
Yeah.
And some people out there might be like, well, man, like that might sound cool for you, but I only make $30,000 a year. Okay, I get that. That doesn't mean you don't need to start on a budget, but that also means you need to find a way to increase your income.
I was just reading an article that says that the minimum wage, the national minimum wage, now no longer can help somebody, like it no longer can house somebody in a single bedroom apartment. Like,
well, that didn't happen. That's been years since.
Right. It's been on that cusp for years, but they said that they no longer can afford just a single bedroom. It used to be a 2-bedroom apartment, right? A 2-bedroom apartment was like the standard for most families. You usually had like mom and dad, and then the baby room and whatever. And that's been off on the wayside for years. But now they're saying that even a single bedroom apartment, and in some areas, efficiencies even, are not affordable to people with minimum wage. And that's where there's the two-way argument, right? Is one argument is, well, how do we get this to be better? And it's like, it's not going to get better on its own automatically. It's, you need to increase your income or decrease your expenses. And now, unfortunately, for most people
can't, like, they're when for your basics, you're not going to decrease. You're just not decreasing.
You're not.
That's where you just got to find a way to increase your income. Let's find things in your house that you already got to sell. Flip those. Like, that's the easiest way to start. Right.
And that was my point to your point about the increase your income is, if you can't decrease your expenses enough, then you need to increase your income, because that's the thing is, there's so many people out there that make 30, 40, 50 grand a year that are struggling. And it's like, yes, I know, because I have family and friends that are in that boat. And when they complain that they can't make rent, and it's like, okay, what else are you doing with your money?
No, those are hard decisions to make. And it's hard to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you're the problem.
Yep.
But you're also the solution. Right?
Just like
so
everything in life.
it's no different than any of the other discussions we've ever had. You just got to be disciplined in what you're trying to accomplish. Write it out, figure out what you got, what are your non-negotiables, and then what do you have left over.
Yep.
And then make a plan for what you have left over. And if you feel like you need more, that's where the make money online comes in. Flipping, affiliate marketing, whatever it is. trading, maybe like you can start a trading account on like $100.
Yeah. And there's more
if you
than
learn
just
to know what you're doing.
it's
But
not just about what we do. There's so many things out there that can make you extra money. You just have to be willing to go do it, and you have to be willing to budget that too. It does, the extra money, you don't go get a job. You don't go get a second job to have more eating out budget. That's just not the right thing to do.
Well, that was kind of where I was going to end up going. The biggest caveat there is when you do make more money, don't give yourself a lifestyle bump. You have to stay disciplined in your budget. You have to. The only way that you're retiring early, the only way that you're, going to save that emergency fund quickly is to stay disciplined in the budget.
Yep.
Everything extra that you get you got to make your money work for you. Your money's got to make more money. And that's the plan. That's where your budget ultimately is going to get you. Just stay disciplined there, and then take your additional funds coming in and put it to work, whether that's starting a business, which it probably should be starting some sort of side hustle first, and then into investments.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad for a lot of people that were in rough situations over, COVID and are still dealing, people who are still dealing with those situations. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You want to get your finances better, but you're dealing with just taking care of the four walls, right? You're just taking care of your essentials, and you don't have a lot of extra room. And, maybe like a good example is a friend of mine who's a single mom. She's got 5 kids, and she has a really, really hard time having more money at the end of her month. And it makes it difficult.
Got more month than money.
Yep. There's many times that she's got more month than money, and she'll call me up and say, hey, I'm having a hard time. And I'll say, hey, I get it. I understand. I've been there. I went through a period of about 18 and 24 months where my wife and I were constantly choosing which bills got paid and leaving other ones behind because our financial situation was not great. And we were always in the negative, and we were always catching up. And that hurts too, because when you go in the negative, you get overdraft fees and late fees and all that kind of stuff. And it just compounds on top of each other. And I just said, you know what? Enough was enough. When we got to a point where we were stable and we were paying our bills, then it was like, how do we maximize this? And that's what I've been working with her on, is saying, hey, how do you maximize the money that you do have left over when it's left over? And she's always been scared of starting something because she wasn't sure that it was going to make enough money to be worth it. And now she looks back and says she's, very thankful that she started a side hustle. And for her,
I love that, because that message right there, you just got to start. Don't let the fear keep you from starting. Start. Yeah. Figure it out. Figure it out if it's not going to work.
Right.
But there's no failure in that, because there's lessons learned. There's so many things that you can apply to the future there.
Right.
Julie hit the nail on the head. There's new opportunities coming out all the time.
Yeah.
We are, as much as like our day and age, we suffer from like inflation and whatever else compared to like our parents or grandparents. We are in an amazing age where you can make money from anywhere. Make money. All you need is a phone and an internet connection, and you can make money on the internet.
Yep.
But you got to study it. You got to have discipline. You got to have a system, just like your budget. But it's an amazing time.
It is. And that's where we've talked about some mindset around it, right? We've talked about some things that, people can do budgeting wise, things like that. And here's some practical stuff, right? One of the things that I say that I like to do with a lot of these is give you some practical advice, things that you can actually take action on. And so the app I mentioned earlier, Every Dollar, that is an amazing app to use. Get in there, check it out. It's not, like I said, again, we're not an affiliate for it. We're not endorsing it. We're not getting paid to say it. It's just an app that's very useful. And then find yourself an actual, an e-checkbook or an e-ledger, right? And so I use one, it's called Money Keeper. And it, gives me a way. I've got my accounts up here and stuff like that. and I can track all of my spending and all of my income, input, output, that whole bit. I track every single penny. And people think I'm crazy. They're like, oh, you don't just go out and buy something and then just, forget about it. I was like, I do. And then I go back later that day and I go onto my bank account and I go look at my statements, because our bank finally updated to where every debit swipe now immediately shows up. So we can manage that better. And if it doesn't, then you need to keep all your receipts. But what you got to do first is you got to set a budget, and then you got to start sticking to that budget. You got to start really following the budget that you put in place, and figure out how much money you have left over after your essentials. So the big four, right? The four walls is you have your rent or your mortgage, you have your utilities, you have your food, and you have your clothes, right? Or some people may say like transportation is another one, but transportation comes and goes, right? Because some people don't need to pay for transportation. Some people don't, some people ride their bike everywhere, or they whatever, but that's still important. But the big thing is you need clothes. You can't go in a store without shirt and shoes, right? So, but do that and then start putting things in those buckets, right? A good rule of thumb, if you can't manage your money electronically and keep a budget, so like the Money Keeper app that I have, that lets you set budgets, and when you go over, it will notify you on every entry that you're over that budget.
Does that Money Keeper app also allow you to set money goals?
I believe so. I haven't. So there was. I'd have to look at it again here. But I believe that you can do money goals here, and you can do there's like an income plan, an expense plan. Let's see here, features, templates, shopping lists, categories. Yeah, I mean the budgets. So here's the thing about the budgets, right? Is if you could use the budget both ways. You can use it to track your spending in terms of like keeping yourself in that budget, or you could put it as like attached to like a savings account. And you can put a goal in there that every month you want to put $100 into your account, right? So then you make the budget $100, and then you can track that throughout the month, and then say, okay.
So you make your goal as like an individual budget item.
Right, exactly. Okay. You make your goal an individual budget item. That's what I've seen with that one. Every dollar does have some goals too. You can do like how much money you're going to put towards a goal every month, and then it will automatically put that in for you. But the hard part about every dollar is that you can connect it to your bank, but it's kind of finicky that way, where it doesn't, like, your bank has to report those things appropriately. Otherwise,
but you got to have a smooth API.
Right. So, but otherwise, so other practical things is, if that doesn't work for you, if you're more of a hands-on person, do cash envelopes. Right, cash envelopes are
you're going full Dave Ramsey here.
What was that?
So you're going full Dave Ramsey here.
Full Dave Ramsey, yep. But cash envelopes are great because you stick the money in the envelope, and then it's there. And when it's gone, and you don't have any other way to use that. And that's what a lot of people do for their eating out budget. That's what a lot of people do for their clothing budgets. I know I'd like bringing up people who have done great things. My sister has for a long time, she had a specific budget for makeup. So she had a makeup budget, and that was the money she put in the envelope, was, here's how much money I can spend on makeup. And then when that was gone, it was gone, because she's a professional esthetician, right? She's a, has her cosmetics license, and she went and got her master esthetician license and all this stuff. And so she could easily be like, I need that, and I need that, and I need that. And next thing you know, she's $500 in the hole, because makeup's not cheap. So, and the thing is every single month,
you tell her to start an LLC and write it off.
Right. She could.
Now we're getting the money hacks.
Right. We're getting the money hacks. Yeah. We'll go a different one for money hacks for that, like different tax things, I guess we could do, but we're not professionals by any means, but this is experience.
Not professionals.
But yeah, so the other thing that you can do too is, or that you should do, is every single month when you are kind of going through, you should be looking at your transactions. You should be keeping an eye on, is your bank account matching what you see on the app or what you're doing pen and paper. For those of you that are pen and paper, that's great, but you got to keep up with it. And
so that's the old school check register balancing.
Yeah. And that's really what this app
checks
is.
And balances, right? Man.
Yeah. Money Keeper, it's basically an electronic check register is what it is. And we use that.
Helps you organize it in the buckets.
Right. Exactly. And then the budget's nice because you have the ability to, like, we have our eating out budget set to 300. So when we hit 300 in the month, it notifies me on every single transaction I input in there that, hey, you're over budget on these items. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, I don't want to have that notification every time, so I'm just going to turn that off. No, don't do that. You need that notification to remind you went over budget. And that's a reminder to pull back a little bit and say, hey, and does that mean that the next month you dial back your budget? No, every first of the month, your budget starts over. If you went over budget, then you figure out why and you correct the next month. Don't take away from things because you're like, oh, well, I went $20 over budget, so next month I'm doing $280.
Yep.
Well,
and just like Julie here in the comments is saying, it's scary to start, and I think we're talking about starting a business then. But same with the budget. It is scary to start. Because most people, again, you don't want to look yourself in the mirror. It's hard. Like, this stuff's not supposed to be easy at first. Right. But when you develop the habit, it becomes old hat over time. And then you're just doing it.
Right. And Julie asked this question here. This is an important question. She said, Josh, do you feel that these apps are secure? You would know as you get these things, and I make mistakes all the time, trusting when I shouldn't. So here's what I know about mobile applications and what I can say about using these apps that I have been is I do believe that they are secure. Every dollar was built by a financial expert, I'll say. I do believe that Dave Ramsey has had enough experience. You can call him a financial expert. And he's got the schooling for it and the degree for it. So that one I trust because it's from a trusted source. Now, Money Keeper was one that I found through a lot of my searching. I haven't had a problem with it. It does say on, I believe it says on their app itself, just kind of some information about it and how secure it is and that kind of stuff. And here's what I will say about it is when it comes to these types of applications, you take it with a grain of salt, right? You take it with understanding that your phone itself is secure. So if you don't have a password on your phone, maybe keeping financial records on your phone is probably not a good idea because anybody can pick up your phone, swipe up and start looking at your finances, which your finances don't necessarily have to be hidden. That's just, again, it's another one of those taboo things. But as far as other people getting a hold of it, these apps are stored. So my wife,
they generally encrypt all your login information.
Right.
Most of the time, it's not the account info that's being shared. It's like an API access of the login itself that's encrypted.
Yes. And so one of the things I will say is, there's definitely, there's always those concerns, right? People say, well, what is going to happen with all the information? Where is it stored and all that kind of stuff? And I will say that the biggest thing that you need to worry about is, you can put a password on the device or on the app itself. So the app does have the ability to have a password put on it by itself. So it's not just your phone password. And I recommend that because then that way nobody can get a hold of your phone and then, open up the app and put in a password or whatever. But something about technology that people forget is that if somebody has the ability to access your device, which if your device is secure, it shouldn't be a problem. But if it's not as secure as it could be, and they get, access to your device, then what happens is they have access to everything that's on your device. Now that's pretty rare, to be honest. People, you hear about it on the news, you hear about it, whatever, but that's because that's what gets reported, right? For every 9 good situations, there's one bad situation. And that bad situation is what gets publicized the most. So I would say from my personal experience, I haven't had a problem with it. I do like that they give the ability to password protect it on the app itself. So you have your password for your device and your password for the app. And then they also have the ability for you to secure it with one of your accounts. So like One of the rule of thumbs that people say is like, don't ever use your email account or whatever like that for your information. I do for this one because then I have a backup. It stores the backup in my Google Drive. So if something ever happens, I can restore that information and I can prove that I'm the owner of that data. So if anything were to happen, that someone tries to claim something or whatever it is, I have that proof that it's tied to me. It's not just some random person on the app. So, and yeah, Julie, great advice right here. Passwords, 2-step authentication on everything, and LastPass.
Yeah, LastPass is a good tool too.
Honestly, that is great advice for anybody who's concerned about security. Is the big one right there is that 2-step authentication. That is huge because with 2-step authentication, only you get it. And I recommend doing, the actual phone service itself, because if somebody does get access to your device, a lot of times they don't have the ability to get access to everything. They just end up, getting into your apps and whatever. But also email, right? Or phone calls. Phone calls are good too, because phone calls go directly to your phone. And if someone's accessing it remotely, chances are they can't answer that phone call. So I do highly recommend 2-step authentication. And then, Julie making a good point here as well. Having the ability to do a password on the app, and the phone is secure now with facial.
Julie is crushing it today.
Yeah, she is. She is on the ball with us today, which I appreciate that. I love the interaction. That makes it so much better. But so all in all, I mean, it doesn't have to be these apps. You can do other apps. You can do other programs. You can do pen and paper, whatever it is that you do. But every single month, keep up on your budget. Make sure you know how much money is going elsewhere, where it's going. And the big thing is, every single month, go back and review it, because nothing changes unless you're tracking the changes. Like, unless you're actually keeping up with what you're doing to change, nothing's going to change if you just say, well, I set my budget. Now what? It's like, well, follow the budget, review the budget, look at it every single month. Sometimes even I do it sometimes weekly, that I just, if we're having busy, like on our trip, it was absolutely every single week that I was sitting down going, okay, this is how much money we spent. This is how much money we've got. But while we're going through, when I get fuel, put it on my phone. When I go and buy something at the convenience store, put it on my phone. Like, everything went in there before we even left the place, because then we knew how much money we're spending, how much we have left, how much we need to budget. And our trip, we had 0 situations where we were worried that we were going to run out of money before our trip was over. 0, like no stress, no apprehensions whatsoever. And it was because we prepared for it. And that's what people need to do with their finances, is prepare for it, be diligent, be intentional, take that action, just like it is in anything, just like we talk about with, starting different opportunities, like Julie said earlier, it's hard to start, and it's scary, and there's going to be fear, and there's going to be risk. But the only risk you have right now with not taking care of your finances is not having money.
I think you nailed it.
I try.
I think you nailed it.
That sounds good.
I think we need to wrap up. We're at like 54 minutes here.
Hey, good conversation.
It's a great conversation. We need to have Julie on.
Right? We should get Julie on here. Julie, okay, so I'm going to say this, and I'm going to do this live on the air for Julie, is, and Julie said this here, you both are amazing, or both are giving amazing information. Thank you. Here's the thing.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. And also, Julie is a trooper. She has been through a lot. Her and I have, talked plenty of times here and there. And I will say that is one person that can tell you what it's like to overcome adversity. Like, she has gone through so much, and she continues to plug away. She continues to push forward. And if everybody had the tenacity like Julie does, like, honestly, there'd be so many people right now that'd be like, oh, I already know this. Like, I've already got this going. It's fine, because that's the whole figured out mentality, right? She's always got that mentality. She's always been there, and it's nice to see her, back in the swing of things. She's been a little behind the scenes for a while. So Julie, nice to see you back out here and showing your face around. I appreciate you, and then I'm glad that you're doing a little bit better. So that's awesome. But no, I think that's the gist of it, right? Is we need to take action. We need to, really make a good point to better ourselves. And that's financially is a really big part. It's going to, once you get a budget together and you start following it, it's going to relieve a lot of stress. You're going to know where your money's going. You're going to know when you messed up, right? You're going to look at your budget and go, oh, shoot, it's the 15th of the month and I hit my eating out budget already. Well, guess what? That doesn't mean you expand the budget for the rest of the month. That means you're done.
Yeah, you got to buckle down.
Yeah, you hit your budget. You're done. It's halfway through the month, and that's it. You get no more eating out the rest of the month. And we've done that, and it sucks because when you get that paycheck and you're like, all right, sweet, we're gonna go eat out. Yeah. Oh wait.
No, man.
Already done that.
You guys can do this. You just got to remain in your discipline.
Yeah.
It's about discipline. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko Willink says that.
Yep.
Right. Discipline equals freedom. And like when you embed that into your own mind, all these different things become easier.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I think that's good. I think, unless you got any other closing thoughts, man.
I think we're good, man. This is a good episode. Julie, thank you for hanging with us and your participation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And just a quick plug for all of you out there. I mean, listening in podcast land or watching live or whatever it is, we do this live on Facebook. We do this live on YouTube, and then we post this up on our podcast here. So once we're done, we'll usually get this posted up and put out there. And here's the thing, right, is we do this because we know people listen and they want to watch and they want to see us in different capacities. And that's why we do this live too, because this right here, Julie's a perfect example of why we do it live, is because we love having that interaction. We love being able to help people in real time. And that's why we started all this. Those two dads wasn't started because we were like, oh, I guess, let me go back. Initially, we're like, this would be fun. And then we're like, wait, how can we make this purposeful? And that was the conversation we had, was what are we going to talk about? And it was like, this is, two guys that met in the entrepreneurial world. We went through the same challenges together. We went through the same Facebook groups together. We've done all these things. We've got a very similar backstory, very similar family life. I kind of feel like we're like the same person in different capacities. Like we've grown up in different parts of the country, but we've grown up like very similar fashion. And
we both like memes.
Right. We both like memes. Yeah. That's how we connected in the first place. Right. But when we started this, the whole reason for it was because we wanted to help people, because we have experiences and we have things that we've gone through and things that we know that maybe people out there don't know. And these are topics that we come up with that are things that we've dealt with either recently or that we think that would be good for people. We've talked about before today, right? We've had 20 episodes before today of interviews and things like this, and mindset and all these things about starting businesses and running businesses and doing all these things. And we've never talked about money. And it was like, we got to talk about money, because so many people, they want to do all these things, but they don't have the ability to do so. And that's why we started this podcast, this channel, everything like that, is because this information is out there for you, for all of you watching, listening, to take this and study it and move forward. We're not experts. We're not perfect. We still make mistakes, but we're sharing our journey through all of this so that way you can get better along with us. And when it really comes down to it, we don't like, nobody's paying us to do this. We've made a whole $2 off of our podcast, but here's the thing. We're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for the impact, the significance, the purpose, the mission. And sometime down the road, that's going to come around. I mean, for me, I believe that this was a start in the right direction when we did it back in September of last year. And since then, everything has grown for both of us. I mean, Kyle, you got a huge promotion. and you've had, your family life has improved and a lot of things have been different. And I can't say it's specifically from this podcast, but it's too much of a coincidence to think that all these things got better after we started this.
I mean, first of all, like impact for sure. That's the number one. But like when you're talking about like the positive things that come up when you have the right mindset, the right focus, you have the right people in your circle, you have the right conversations, you start to get momentum, like all those things go hand in hand, right? And when you're consistent and take daily action, like those things compound. Yep. And they compound in a positive direction. And so, and they may not compound in the way that you really initially were thinking at first either, So, right. But it's not a coincidence. It's taking the right action, looking at yourself in the mirror, understanding that you're the problem, but you're the solution. I love that saying.
Yep.
And you just attack.
Well, it's like I always tell people, I said, the best thing about doing things for yourself and, being in business for yourself, whatever it is that you're doing, is that it's all up to you. But the worst thing about it is that it's all up to you.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, that's all we got for today. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Kyle or myself. I know, I know I can speak for Kyle that either one of us would be more than happy to have a conversation, even if it's just to help you get started using one of these apps or whatever the case is, or you have questions on things we talked about, you can get a hold of us through Facebook. Both of us are on Facebook here. We've got some links.
100%, man. We are accessible.
Yes, we
all
are.
The places.
Facebook, we're not untouchable.
Twitter, Instagram.
Yep. You just search our names, honestly.
A website.
Yeah.
YouTube.
It's all out there. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, you have yourself a wonderful day, my man. And I'm going to go start.
You too, brother.
To start cooking some breakfast, some brunch, I guess we'll call it now. And all of you out there in digital land, have a great day. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And we will chat with you
guys next time.